Well, hello, Pensacon 2022. Give it up for you guys. It is day 3. I think we're all exhausted, right? It's been a busy time for all of us, and we are here with the amazing and talented Taryn Manning. Welcome so much. Give it up for Taryn. I want to talk a little bit about your origins. And you were an Arizona karate champ.
Yes.
So tell us, how did you get into martial arts?
Well, growing up, I grew up, I had an amazing mother. She, we grew up, I grew up, in poverty. But you would never know it because I had champagne taste on a beer budget,
right,
according to my mom. So basically, if one of the other kids was doing it, I had to do it too. And there was like a pamphlet going around at school, and it talked about karate class. And so I brought it home that day and was like, I want to do it. And so she's, I had so much energy, you guys. Like, she had to drive me around in a car, in my car seat with the music blaring just to get me to fall asleep. So I just had a lot of energy growing up, and so anything to burn it off. So she put me in karate class, and I excelled, and it was called Kaji Kembo. It was from Hawaii, and I ended up becoming a 3rd-degree gray belt, which was like 1 away from brown belt, but I was #1 in the state of Arizona 2 years in a row.
Woo,
and then I got 2nd place and I quit. Because I'm a sore loser.
Well,
apparently.
it happens.
But then that's how I got into my dance, which then took me from all the way from junior high through high school. I was doing ballet and jazz, which I think kept me out of trouble, because I had to be somewhere every day after school. But I had a really big, extensive dance background too. So,
right.
Yeah.
I was going to get into that.
Oh, sorry about that.
No. You do you. We're just going to have a good time. You're not just going to talk. I think it's interesting though that you did have the martial arts background and going into dance. And how similar or different was it?
Well, there's the forms. They're called katas, and I did well in those. I did really good at sparring though, especially. I was #1 co-ed too, mind you. But
yeah, that's important too.
Basically, that's how I became competitive. I have a competitive nature to me, and I kind of took acting that way too. And I know that that's not really, I've been asked about that. Like, that's not the way to act. That's not a thespian way. But I don't know any other way. I get into an audition room and I look at I got this. But even if we all look different, it's just a state of mind, and it's a confidence. But I think it's the karate that got me there.
Right.
But then, I don't know how it segued into dance, but I'm glad it did because I feel like I call dance my gateway drug, and that's what led me into they talk about that, gateway drug.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I ever dabbled into, but so basically that's how I got into the singing and acting and just all that. Dance.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
How did Hustle and Flow land to you?
Well, that was actually offered to Rachel E. Cook, who's an amazing actress, and she was getting married at the time when it finally got financed. So I like to call a lot of my roles hand-me-downs. Right. So it's just a good old hand-me-down, like pretty much a lot of my roles. But hey, I'll take it. But she was getting married and didn't want to play a prostitute at the time, so I was next in line, I guess. I'll do it.
I'm glad you did. I don't understand how the Academy have missed that role. You are amazing as an actor. I mean, it's just you tapped into something. If you've not seen Hustle and Flow, go out after the con and get it because it's I watched it 3 times before this because it's one of my favorite. Yeah, it's one of my favorite films, and I've not seen it in a minute. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to keep talking to you, and that role is so powerful.
Thank you.
And so you were just amazing. How do you tap into that? I mean, how did you find her?
I was like bursting at the seams at that point to play, a role that had an arc and started somewhere and ended somewhere, and I was just rearing and ready to go. I went to acting class since I was 13, and my acting teacher loved to tell me that I sucked. And that just, I don't know, that just made my fire burn inside of me, because I was in class with Kirsten Dunst, Mercedes McNabb, Lily Sobieski, Erica Christensen, Evan Rachel Wood. These were all my classmates. We were young, growing up and everything, but he'd never match me up with any of them. And I'd be like, I want to work with her, and I want to work with her. But, so the fire inside of me burned, so my point is that, like, by the time I was about, I think, 23 or so, and I played so many just little roles where I'd come in and do, like, a day player. I mean, I started off as an extra to get my SAG card. I really did do this from the ground up. I moved to Hollywood with big dreams. I knew no one. And I went to Samuel French, which is a bookstore for actors, and I bought all the books. And I've been going to class since 13, and I read the Backstage West every day. I mean, every week it came out, I read it front to back. Every darn article I did, student, film, just anything I could get my hands on, I just really, really wanted it. And what a lot of people ask me nowadays, how do you get started? I mean, I only know my way to do it, but it's just such a different time, you know? And I sent out like 80 envelopes with my headshot and my little cover letter. And then my neighbor, he had a really great voice, and I asked him, hey, would you ever follow up to these auditions, these meetings for me? So he'd call on my behalf, and of those like 80 mailers I did, only 2 agents called me back, And then one hip pocketed me, and hip pocket is like where they won't sign you, but they'll take a chance on you. So it was Epstein Wyckoff, and so I was just, by the time Hustle and Flow came around, I was bursting at the seams to do, break.
Good cases nowadays.
I was bursting at the seams, so I don't know, and then I tapped into a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot of tragedies in my life, but nothing that I would change for the world. I mean, I had a great life and everything, but I've been through some weird stuff. Kind of tapped into some of that. Never been a prostitute, never been, pimped out, thank God. Well, in certain ways, I guess I'm an actor. But yeah, so I was just ready to go.
I love that scene between you and Terrence Howard when Nona's like, look, I want more in life. You're not in the backseat of these cars. You are so powerful in that.
Thank you. That was crazy. The sun was coming up, and I tortured myself all day. Sometimes to get there, and I'll listen to music that takes me back to, my father took his own life when I was 14, and I still miss him so much, and I can still pull from that. And I listen to music all day, sad songs that remind me of my dad, and it was taking so long to get the scenes before that, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because eventually, like, you're not sad anymore. You've worked through it.
Right.
So I was just like, oh man. Finally, I was up, and I had only 2 takes to do that. So that was really, but that's good because sometimes having to do it again and again and again, but that was a very powerful scene for me.
Well, for all of it, it's such a good scene. And what's great about her is that and this is rare, these kind of movies, but she has such a positive end in her arc.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has a really redemption story by the end of it.
Yeah.
And you're really pulling for it. So I mean, it's just
She probably reminded me of me in a way where it's like you're sort of the underdog and no one looked over a lot, but all the while she's like a champion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she could probably get his music on the radio.
If I had an Oscar for you, I'd give it to you. That's such a great movie. But from there,
trophies.
Trophies are great, right? From there, yeah, 8 Mile.
Oh yeah, is that the order?
Yeah.
I think that was before.
Was it before?
Mm-hmm.
They're real close. So.
Yeah, Crossroads. It was like
Crossroads.
It was Crazy Beautiful, then Crossroads, 8 Mile, and that was wild. Yeah, that was cool.
Tell us about 8 Mile. Work on Eminem. That's his story, his first movie.
Yeah. Well, that there was a couple people on there that Brittany Murphy was on that project too, and she became a very good friend of mine, and I miss her so much.
Oh yeah.
She was an awesome person. Anyway, so yeah, I met him, and I was the first time I met him, I was on set, and I walked up, and his bodyguards like both went like that, like they closed him in. I was like, oh, because I was just gonna say hi to him.
Right.
And he was like, no, that's she plays Janine, and so then they parted the scene. And they're really
no, she works here. It's coming.
He was so nice, to be honest with you, and it's so happy to be there and humbled by us actors, and we're humbled by him, and he's really funny to be around, and he's very dedicated. He was always writing. He was writing the album, the soundtrack.
Right.
So yeah,
and you're on the soundtrack.
Yeah, and then I got a song on the soundtrack.
So while you're doing all these movies,
Mm-hmm.
and you singing and dancing, you obviously love music, and you have a wonderful music career. how do you get to to balance both of them? And you're letting that pop through while you're acting. I mean, how does that start?
Well, I would say,
the boom cat.
Yeah. Well, that's me and my brother.
For you and your brother, that's when you started.
Yeah. So my brother's my brother's quite an artist, and he grew up in an artistic family with my father. And my mom, was a dancer. My grandma was a famous tap dancer. And so it's in my.
It's in your genes.
Yeah, it's in there. So, I don't know. My brother, the first time we ever did like some music, he was making music and said, "Taryn, sing to this." And I'm like, "No, I don't feel like it," because he's my brother. I don't want to. And then he's like, "Please, Taryn, I'm begging of you." So I sang over this track that he had made, and next thing you know, we started a band, and I was like 16, and he was, I think, 20. And that just, carried on through the whole thing while I was starting to act and all that. Then we got signed to DreamWorks with Robbie Robertson of the band. And that was, it was just an incredible time. And then what happened was DreamWorks went out of business, DreamWorks Records. Right. So that kind of it put a halt on our album. But the experience we had, we traveled the world a couple of times. And I always say I'm a working actor and a struggling musician. Because music really is like number one to me, to be honest.
If you're not seeing her music, she gets some great videos on YouTube and on her channel. Yeah. It's just great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Great stuff. The last, I guess, 2 months ago with The Light, and that's fantastic. It's very fantastic.
And then the record's called Boom Cat.
Yeah, Boom Cat. Yeah, you definitely have to check it out. And you've done, from films, you've done some television with Sons of Anarchy for a long run, and then of course Orange Is the New Black. Some say typecast.
Oh yeah.
And there is some truth to this, but I think you have chosen correctly or lucked out or both these roles with amazing just depth, and that's just fantastic. Especially with Orange Is the New Black. Just tell us about how that experience of making that character come to life. She is such a devout evangelical, but on a kind of a sinister side, and she's got her own. Right? And so it's just like you pull something out that it's seriously amazing.
Thank you so much. Back to the stereotyping.
Yeah.
Just so we cover that.
Yeah, sure.
I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made, if it's a mistake, I'm very honest. What you see is what you get. I'm really not the roles that I play. But at the same time, like just how I shared with you guys about like my upbringing and my dad and everything, like I told that to the press at a young age, like in one of my first magazines. I think I was open and candid, and I kind of wish I would have never said that, because I feel that I was marginalized into like white trash. My dad must have killed himself because he was a drug addict, and I'm lucky to even be making any money. So I've never been paid all that well. I've never been paid like some of the other women that I've worked with. I've never been paid like man, obviously.
Fix that.
That takes a long time.
We're working
Rome wasn't built overnight. But so that's carried into some type of a terrible stereotype and typecasting. And like I said, I've traveled the world, and like I said, my mother made it so I could do everything that all the other children got to do. But it's been rough, because I'm always having to kill myself in movies or die of drug overdoses or play a horrible person, and it's starting to wear on me as I get older. And I'm like, I don't want to die anymore. I want to live. So that's just to cover
Absolutely.
that. But as far as Pensacon went, it's like, what can you do at that point? You go all in, and there was this new streaming platform called Netflix. I'd never really heard of it. I'd heard of it if you rented a movie at like Circle K or wherever they had those boxes at. And I was like, really? And I remember reading the script, and she only had a couple lines, and they were just horrible. I was like, what am I going to do with this one? And she had the busted grill, and she was on meth and everything. I don't know, it was because of this new streaming platform that, everybody was really excited about. And of course, Jenji Kohan being the showrunner. I took a chance on it. And I really wasn't supposed to be in it all that much. I was going to be, that's why at the end of the first season they had the big fight, because they didn't know if they would have me back. Right. Because she wasn't written to be back. So, that ended up just becoming a whole thing.
It's just, the performance is great.
And I never really, to be honest with you guys, like I'm now a Christian, believe it or not, and I say this not because I played so many, but I truly believe that it was God's way of, Jesus comes and he taps on your shoulder lightly. And I don't mean to get into religion, but
It is Sunday.
Praise the Lord. So he did, and I feel all my life, because I grew up in another religion, and I ended up playing all these Christians all the time. So I was kind of forced to constantly read the Bible, read the scripture, and next thing you know, it's like, there's something in this. It's like it's speaking to me, and so I'm so grateful for these roles because I found God, and if it wasn't for that, I don't know, this business it's been rough, not just for me, it's just a rough business.
Oh, it is.
And it does take the skin of a rhinoceros to work through all the rejection.
So what are you looking forward to in the future?
Let's see here. Well, I'm looking forward to just, our lives here turning around and everybody getting to be free from this pandemic.
Word.
And I know in Florida you guys aren't really mandated and you have a bit more freedom. But man, in California, it's not like this. I mean, it is rough. I go on set and we're tested, I swear, 3 times a day. I was just about to go onto a show and I hadn't had COVID once through this whole time. And I was being quarantined. Yeah, not gonna work.
That's good. You celebrate that.
Yeah, terrible thing. But I was quarantined in a hotel room. They're doing 10 days, and the 4th day in, I test positive for the darn thing. I know, and so I don't get to go onto the show. So I'm like, wow, this is not that I didn't think it wasn't real, but it just became really real to me. And it's almost like, after that, you become some kind of leper,
Right.
and then you have to take this moment for anybody really hires you again, and it's just it's a shame. So that's what I look forward to, number one, in the future, is this lifting off of us. Praise the Lord. And then hopefully after that, just going and doing more parts, and I made it very clear to my agents, I don't want to die anymore, and I don't want to play a drug addict.
And you're really such a wonderful actress. You've done your bit. Let's do some new stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming too. Because I know great things are coming too.
And I've said no to a lot, and there is a power in no, so
Absolutely.
to really draw the line.
At this point in your career, you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you've got to have some. Well, not quite that, but it's more like you deserve to have fun too, right?
Yeah.
And so you deserve to have what you want to do.
Yeah, I would just love to play, rather than the prisoner, maybe the counselor, rather than the drug addict, maybe the rehabilitator. So I'm still in the same, genre, so people can still, that still works. God forbid you take me way too far out of it, they won't watch it. So, but just play the different role within the same,
Right.
The same sort of scenery, if you will.
Well, if you don't mind, we're going to open up questions to the audience.
Let's do it.
Right there in the middle.
Hi.
Hi. So my question is about some of your TV work. You had character arcs in Hawaii Five-0 and Sons of Anarchy. Can you talk a little bit about those experiences and maybe how they changed you as a person?
Yeah. Hawaii Five-0 was incredible. I got to move to Hawaii, and yeah, I know, right?
I like Florida, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was a big life change. I was living in Hollywood in the fast lane, and man, my life just went. I'd be at the ABC store, and there'd be a line, and people just taking their time. Come on, I gotta be somewhere. I didn't know where to be, but it was just my frame of mind. Just so then I got really into meditation and spending time alone, which wasn't something that I was used to. But yeah, that changed my life. Being on that set was really cool. Alex is an amazing actor and stunt man. I mean, he literally will do every single stunt but set himself on fire because SAG won't allow him. But but I mean, to the point where even there's a scene where he got waterboarded and he did it, and he ended up getting pneumonia and everything because that's how dedicated he is, and I just think he's incredible. He's a good inspiration, and Hawaii's wonderful. Sons of Anarchy, that was really cool. You're never supposed to question Kurt Sutter about his writing. You're gonna get written off. So there was a scene where all that I asked was, instead of opening up on my boobs, can we pan up? That's all that I asked. And nothing about his writing, but that was the end of Cherry. Yeah, because I was like, there's so much porn already on this show, like. But he wanted to open up with a nude shot, and I'm fine with nude and everything. But like, it was just a simple question, and that was the end. I mean, we're still friends, but like, you really cannot question anything with him. But it was a good experience, and I love Katie. Her and I got along great. Rob Perlman's my friend, so yeah, it's all positive. It's fine. You're welcome.
Questions? Right there.
Okay, Orange is the New Black, so iconic. You're probably one of my favorite characters, like period. It was such like a hardcore and very emotional show. Were there like any scenes where you just had to like step back for a moment, and like how did you and the overall cast just kind of take it easy or have fun away from the actual show?
Yeah, well, we all lived in New York at the time. I was from LA, so, and most of those girls are from New York, but man, when we would go out, we'd have fun, you know. Everyone let loose. We're talking like theater majors, you know. So there's always a lot of singing on set. You'd be like, whose voice is that? Everyone was just amazing like that. And yeah, they definitely put my character through a lot. I'd read the script and be like, what now? And, yeah, becoming like, you know, there was one thing I had to do where, yeah, I never had that happen to me in real life. So, you know, when you're going on and speaking on something that is, man, I was shocked at how many women have been, you know, victimized by sexual abuse and rape. But there was a lot of challenges that I was, you know, having to speak on, even in between during press, and it just felt like I was always working. And Genji loved to just sort of take a little bit of our past and kind of sprinkle it in. So there was a lot of times that we were having to sort of take a moment and be, you know, because we never get the script until right before that episode. Yeah, the only time I knew anything more about my arc was like very last. Well, I don't want to give it away in case no one's seen it. Well, but you know what? If you haven't seen it,
Spoiler alert. Go get Netflix.
yeah. So basically, the last season, you know, she said that they were gonna, you know, I was gonna die. And I was like, oh, I'm being fired, right? Because that's sometimes another way to let an actor go, but I was just playing. But yeah, that was tough, but that ended up being the very last season. So, I mean, I had such a good experience on that. You know, we weren't allowed to ever like pluck our eyebrows or get our nails done or any of that, so that was rough. I was very excited to take that jail suit off, but it was really cool. And it was awesome having a steady job like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Back here.
Do you have any tips to prevent burnout?
What?
Any tips to prevent feeling burned out about anything? Do you have any tips?
Wow, yeah. Like I said, spending time alone, you know, and even, you know, getting into meditation. And that's, you guys, that's not like anything like religious or anything. That's just trying to clear your mind of all the riff-raff and the idle chit-chat and the self-doubt or the bills and the worries, because those are all just, you know, you know, worldly problems of the flesh, you know what I mean? Like, you don't take that stuff when you die. So just taking the time to realize that, you know, that being burned out is like, that's really your choice, you know? Like, I always say, I don't sleep all that well. So sleep is just imperative as much as it sucks. You know, a lot of people say, I'll sleep when I die. Well, you also die if you don't get enough sleep. You know, it's like, so I don't really like that saying. I think it's a little silly, but lots of water, stuff like that, you know, don't eat animals too much. Don't eat dead things, because death is inevitable.
That's true. Other questions? Right, and back here, and then I'll get you next.
So out of like every role that you've played, is there like anybody like that you thought you wouldn't get along with, but then it just kind of like worked out like, whoa, okay, that's a different side to them?
I never thought that I wouldn't get along with anybody, but let me think. Someone I ended up like really getting along with. Let's see here. Oh, like me and Leah at Big Boo. We got. I mean, that's my friend for life. Me and Terrence Howard got along great. I never thought we'd become like such good friends, but yeah, him and I. Taraji too.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what sucks about actors? Like, man, they're so flaky. But it's true. But I'm not. I'll be like, I'll make a good friend on set, and they'll just, stop calling. And it's like, oh, you're just like me when I don't want to call people.
I've often heard it compared to summer camp. So you make all these great friends at summer camp, and then we'll write each other every day, and you never do.
Yeah, and then there's that, and, because you make such good friends, and you're kind of like thrust into, and I think that's why sometimes there's like relationships that happen so fast, and I personally, I don't do all that. I've never really had an on-set romance.
Right.
I'm very, believe it or not, very professional because I'm pretty sure they think I'm not going to be. So I'm one of the first ones out of my trailer on my mark because I see it as like, I see the crew and I see it as like a whole team. These men, women, they're married, they want to get home. And so when there's an actor that's just dilly-dallying out of her trailer, it's annoying. We're standing there like waiting on again, you know what I mean? And they're just walking up slowly, talking on the phone, just, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, you're just holding up everybody around here. But there's always going to be that unconscious person consciously doing it, though, I feel like sometimes, because they won an award that season.
Yeah. Right here, question.
I think they do that every time too.
Yeah?
That's true.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
So after you make a movie or show, you go back and watch it after it's edited. Does it lose some of the magic, or is it still fun to?
Yeah, I tend to be, like pleased, like wow, look what they did with that. We're running the gun. That's, so many times, you guys, now movies are made on a skeleton crew with shoestring budget, and it's like what they end up making. It's really phenomenal, and I just want you guys to know that the process of getting a show or a movie made is such a process. So even just filming it, that's only like one little piece of the pie. They got the post-production, the color correction, the sound design. So there's so much that goes into it that I appreciate all that stuff too. And the music and all that. And no one ever leaves a budget for music. Have you ever watched a movie without music? It's unbelievable. So yeah, but I do like to watch. There's some stuff but I've gotten to the point where I don't ever really. I'm such a character actor that I'm just like let's see how this one is. So I'm always trying to reinvent white trash.
Question right here.
It's curious if the left teeth prosthetic was terrible to wear.
Oh yeah, that was they had a retainer a couple of times, but the dentist didn't fit it that great, so it was like really hurting me. So a lot of days, if I wasn't doing close-ups, they would just like paint on my teeth, this gross stuff, and I didn't even eat because it was like if you ran your tongue, when you run your tongue across your teeth, and they're just like yeah. So I'd be like all day, but it just kind of helped blend to the character. So.
And was the change for you, or was it just for the character when they got rid of that?
What was that?
Didn't they replace your teeth at some point?
No. They just washed all that off, and I have my teeth.
Other question.
I think I have pretty good teeth.
Anybody on this side? Everybody on this side, be quiet.
I think I am.
Do you have a favorite project that you worked on?
Yeah, there's a couple projects that I don't think people have really seen, but I did a movie called Cleveland Abduction that was on Lifetime, and it was about those poor women that were captive and held hostage and chained for like over a decade with that man that rode the school bus, and and they were like living right next door to their neighbors. And playing Michelle Knight was really challenging. It was the first time that I I got to be in like every frame, so I worked really hard, and I loved being able to be on set every day like that. Like I loved having that role like that. And but man, that stuck with me for a long time. Like that one I really took in. As far as I loved Hustle and Flow because I felt like it was the first time that I got to play the arc and have my character really start somewhere and then end a whole other place. And then I really enjoyed Orange is the New Black. I really did. That was so fun. And getting to move to New York and all that. There's so much more that goes into these roles. We get to go out places and make friends, and and it's such an amazing job that we have, truly. Even though it's rough, and we're very lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
Right here.
Okay, so Orange is the New Black.
Yes.
Dog ate the roller coaster of her life.
Right.
So you've been told that you said that you made a suggestion to someone who lost your job. This instant, did you get to kind of build this character like up and down and up and down? Because it was so long and it was all
I don't
all
know.
them.
Yeah, you mean like the actual?
Yeah, the personality
writing?
just changes and you go from, well, honestly, first season, not a lot of people would care for you. You were going to be written off. And then everyone was like, well, she's okay. And then the character at the very end, like, you're like everyone's favorite character.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, how did that change occur? Was it all them or were you like, hey, I really want to do this change?
No, gosh, no. Well, I think what happened was, excuse me, I think I was stereotyped into a very one-dimensional, character that I'm always. Until people get to know me as Taryn, they probably think I am this way. So I think after being around me year after year after year and just seeing my heart, my true Taryn, I think they started softening my character a little bit because they Genji realized that wasn't these roles I play, and then she would go on and tell me that. And if you watch all the characters, everybody really goes through a lot. And that was, and some people go from good to bad, if you catch my drift. So yeah, I think it was just because there's so 80 of us, and they kept bringing more and more, and it was wild. I don't know how the heck they kept up. And each character had 3 names too, I swear. But yeah, she just, they did me a lot of justice using all the different, my training as an actor. I really appreciated that. It was fun to play mean though. I enjoyed it. It was a real persona that I got to put on, and I did practice method acting because I remember I was asked to read in between. If I had a couple of days off, I would read for another role for my hiatus, and I couldn't do it. I was way too in her, so that was the first time I experienced that. Yeah, I felt like I grew a little bit as an actor in that.
Yeah, as it goes on, you can see you kind of growing as an actress or actor.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks.
We've got time for a couple more questions, so.
So this is kind of I'll just ask a question. So, speaking of character names, I remember when I first started watching the show, and it's been a little while, so I don't remember exactly why her name was Pennsatucky, but I remember associating it with Pensacola. And so I'm curious if you had ever, what the association is with that name. Have you ever heard of Pensacola before?
Yeah, but she was from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was a nickname, right? It was
Yeah.
I mean, she had doggy, yeah. But it's funny because I thought that when I got here too, and everybody was doing that. At my table, I was like, yeah. I don't think it came from there or from here.
I don't think it did either. But I just remember I always associated your character with Pensacola in probably more ways than one.
Right? Yeah.
She was very Appalachian.
Yeah, I know.
So it's.
Yeah, she was all over the place.
I think we've got time for one more question. Right
I
there.
think you really want to ask a burning question.
Earlier you said music is your number one.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your influences that have inspired you for your music and what you would want to do more with it.
Yep. So my dad, just so you know, my dad was a soul singer. He was signed to Gamble and Huff. I don't know if you guys, they're out of Pittsburgh. It was an all-black production team at the time. They did, there was Motown and there was them. So I grew up with a lot of Motown. I also grew up with Janis Joplin, Rolling Stones, and a lot of more kind of white, funky, with a lot of soul. And then my brother, I grew up listening to a lot of. He was into hip hop 80s, kind of the 80s stuff. I was very into growing up Alanis Morissette and Fiona Apple, and I like Jewel, and then of course I loved Michael Jackson a lot. And honestly I love because you guys, this list could go on and on. I think my day's done as far as being any type of pop star, but I know that I play guitar, and I've been thinking I love rock and roll so much, and I just want to wear my electric slung low and just rock like garbage or I don't know, just something like that, and just go off for a little bit. And and just how fun it, you know, because it's a lot of fun and it's rewarding when you see everybody saying back your stuff. It's kind of that instant gratification that a lot of, you know, theater actors get, and I've done theater too, but I mean, I always want to make movies and TV. It just changed a lot right now, so I'm just kind of waiting for this phase to go by. They're hiring a lot of reality stars as movie stars and YouTube stuff, so it's like a little disheartening at the moment. Yeah.
Too much of the business side there.
I'm not trying to, like,
Right.
you know, hey, if they're getting it, you know, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just,
Absolutely.
yeah. Go ahead. what were you
No,
saying?
no, I was like, look, nowadays it's interested in clicks and followers, and it's just like,
Yeah, it's all about followers in your, and your Instagram.
it's like, how many followers? Well, how
TikTok.
talented are you? Can you do the job?
Right.
And so sometimes they can't.
Yeah.
So,
And I love teaching acting too, by the way. I mean, I do like some master classes. I love to teach things that I never learned, you know, like, do you know all the terms? Like, do you know how to, first time I ever got a check, because I didn't come from much money, I was like, I'm rich! And I quit my little job waitressing, and then, well, when I heard what I was going to make, and then when I got the check, it was like cut down so much, because no one ever really taught me about, you know, the percentages
Right.
and taxes, and so there's that, and also just like, just, I like giving, if I'm doing a class, I like giving the same scene to every actor. And I like setting up, you know, how you would do it different, right? So it's like, I've always wanted to make 2 movies with the exact same cast and just show how very different the movies would be with just the different human beings in them. So that's why I love to give my class the same scene, have everybody put it up, and then you're just like, wow, look at the different ways that these things are played, because we're all so different and unique, and that's what I'm really celebrating in my acting classes, like not to ever compare yourself.
Right.
That, you know, there's a place for all of us as an actor, and that anything's possible. You know, it doesn't matter how you look, you know, what color your skin is. I mean, what background you come from. It's all possible. You know, because I did it somehow, so I know that anything's possible.
And I think that is a wonderful way to end this. This is a pleasure. Parents will get amazing. You can go see him, get some autographs, get a photo.
I love you, Taryn.
Oh,
Thank you for the advice.
You're welcome. I hope it works.
and so go see her. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.